video will run through the Woodland Creation Planning Grant. I will cover what the Woodland Creation Planning Grant is, who's eligible to apply, what's involved, and how to apply. So the Woodland Creation Planning Grant provides you with funding to help cover the costs of producing a UK Forestry Standard compliant woodland creation design plan. You will receive dedicated support from the Forestry Commission's Woodland Creation officers from receipt of application through to final completion of the Woodland Creation Design Plan. So how does it work? The Woodland Creation Planning Grant provides funding to landowners, land managers and public bodies to help cover the costs of producing a UK Forestry Standard compliant woodland creation design plan. These plans can support application to further funding sources for woodland creation, such as countryside stewardship or the Woodland Carbon Fund. The Woodland Creation Planning Grant contributes towards the costs of gathering and analysing the information you need to consider in order to ensure your proposals for woodland creation take account of any impacts on biodiversity, landscape, water, the historic environment and local stakeholders. So who's eligible to apply? To be eligible to apply for the Woodland Creation Planning Grant, you must plan to create a woodland that is a minimum of 5 hectares or more in total size. Where separate blocks of woodland are proposed, each block must meet the definition of woodland set out by the National Forest Inventory, which is a minimum area of 0.5 hectares and a minimum width of 20 metres. This is a reduction from the previous eligibility criteria of a 10 hectare minimum application size and a 5 hectare block size. We hope these enhancements to the grant will support a broader range of woodland creation and enable more landowners, farmers, land managers and public bodies to access the funding on offer and plan for woodland creation. It is worth bearing in mind, however, that if you intend to seek grant aid to plant the woodland, you should consider the minimum areas required to apply for the grants for woodland creation when planning your proposals. More information on woodland creation grants can be found on the government website at www.gov.uk. So we have also removed the requirement for 70% productive species in favour of basic UK Forestry Standard compliance. We do still want to know the proposed woodland will grow and thrive, so at least 85% of the net planted area should be proposed for planting with tree species considered suitable to the site by the Forest Research Ecological Site Classification. Up to 15% of the net planted area may be planted with experimental species, so species which are not present in the Ecological Site Classification. If you wish to plant more than 15% of the net area with species that are not present in the Ecological Site Classification, you will need to provide evidence why these species are suitable to the site. Please be aware that if you've already applied for countryside stewardship, the Woodland Carbon Fund, the HS2 Woodland Fund, or if you've submitted an environmental impact assessment inquiry form to plant a new woodland, then you are not eligible to apply for the Woodland Creation Planning Grant on that site. So what does it involve? You will need to produce a Woodland Creation Design Plan. You will need to complete the Woodland Creation Design Plan template in 2 stages. Stage 1 requires you to complete a desk-based exercise identifying the constraints and opportunities for your site. You will compile your data in Stage 1 of the Woodland Creation Design Plan template and provide supporting documents, including at least a site context map, which will show the key features and characteristics of the wider landscape for the site. We will pay £1,000 for completion of Stage 1 of the Woodland Creation Design Plan template. If we decide that there's potential for planting woodland on the proposed site, then you'll be offered a Stage 2 payment. At Stage 2, you can get £150 per hectare, minus £1,000 offered at Stage 1, to complete Stage 2 of the Woodland Creation Design Plan template. If your application is under 10 hectares in size, we will make a minimum payment of £500 for Stage 2. You will get the Stage 2 payment for producing a Woodland Creation Design Plan by completing Stage 2 of the template. You will find a list of required maps and plans in the Woodland Creation Design Plan template, and this includes the site context map I mentioned earlier, a site appraisal plan, a design context plan, and final design plan. The Forestry Commission makes the Stage 2 payment on approval of your completed Woodland Creation Design Plan template and the documentation that supports it. If a more detailed assessment is needed, such as a peat depth survey or an archaeological survey, then you can apply for a supplementary payment. And to do this, you'll need to complete the Supplementary Payments Application form available on the Woodland Creation Planning Grant page on the gov.uk website. If your application for a supplementary payment is successful, we will pay 70% of the actual costs of the survey or surveys. Where a supplementary payment applies, you will need to follow a standard brief which will set out how the work is required for the survey or assessment. Where appropriate, the work required under the supplementary payment will need to follow the approach set out in a standard brief. We will add this set over time, but we are currently working to make available standard briefs for archaeology, peat and groundwater dependent terrestrial ecosystems, breeding birds, and vegetation habitats. These will provide clarity on what is required and help you collect quotes. So how to apply for the Woodland Creation Planning Grant? You can apply all year round for the Woodland Creation Planning Grant. You will need to complete an application form available on the Woodland Creation Planning Grant website on gov.uk and submit your completed application form to wcpg@forestrycommission.gov.uk. Please be aware that you will need the landowner's consent and signature if you don't own the land, and we may ask to see your tenancy agreement to confirm your land management responsibilities. Please remember that if you decide to appoint an agent to apply for funding on your behalf, then you must complete an agent authority form to give your consent. Please be aware that this is not the same form that you would complete to appoint an agent for countryside stewardship woodland support. Once you have completed the Woodland Creation Design Plan and we have approved the plan, you can use this to apply for funding to plant the trees through the Woodland Carbon Fund, Countryside Stewardship Woodland Creation Grant, the HS2 or the HS2 Woodland Fund. More information on these grants can be found on the gov.uk website. Our approval of the Woodland Creation Design Plan template does not constitute approval to plant under the Environmental Impact Assessment regulations. You will still need to provide notification or apply for an opinion. The Woodland Creation Design Plan will, however, make this process easier, putting at your fingertips the information required. We have adjusted the Environmental Impact Assessment inquiry form so that you can cross-reference easily the information you have gathered through the Woodland Creation Planning Grant process.